Town of Wethersfield. We will start, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag right up here. So if folks want to stand and join. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, read the warning. So again, this is the School District of Wethersfield, Vermont annual town meeting. The legal voters of the Wethersfield School District, Wethersfield, Vermont, are hereby notified and warned to meet in person at Wethersfield School in Ascutney, Town of Wethersfield, Vermont, or virtually on Saturday, March 4th, 2023 at 10 a.m. in the morning to transact any business not involving voting by Australian ballot or any voting required by the law to be by ballot. Such meeting, so started, shall be adjourned to Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. The legal voters of the Wethersfield School District are further notified and warned to meet at the Martin Memorial Hall in Ascutney, Vermont on Tuesday, March 7th, 2023 at 10 o'clock in the morning in the forenoon to act on any business involving voting by Australian ballot or any voting required by law to be by ballot. Polls open at 10 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. So a few announcements and introductions before we get started. So it has been brought to our attention that those online can only view, they cannot participate or vote. So of note, I think everybody here in the building knows there's restrooms right behind us. Flow in.
I mean, John, they can't ask questions.
They cannot participate.
I know they can't vote, but I was just thinking they could ask questions.
They cannot. That is not the guidance we have been given by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. So with that, a few introductions. We have a few non-resident speakers who will be participating in the meeting unless there's objections. We have Ed, Larry, and Christine. Seeing no objections, we will let them speak. Anne-Marie, do you want to do introductions of the board?
Sure. I'm Anne-Marie Redmond. I'm the board chair. This is Mark Youngling. He's the vice chair. And Jamie Turner and Vince Jewell, also members of the school board. Nicole, I guess, could not make it in due to the weather, so she's not here.
Okay. BG, do we have any comments online from those viewing?
No.
Okay. Great.
And I would want to introduce our principal, lead learner, Brian Martis.
Sorry, yes. And Mr. Martis. My apologies. So we'll move right into Article 1. To approve the reports of the school district officers for the period from July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022. This will be voted on by Australian ballot. Any discussion? Lots of discussion in the room. So no. Hearing none, we will proceed to Article 2. Prior to doing that, John, did you want to speak at some point?
Yes.
You do? Okay. Do you want to go now? Sorry, I forgot.
It's up to you folks.
Why don't you go before we get into the presentation, which is the fourth article. So
Okay.
if you're ready, go ahead.
Probably use my microphone.
You want to stand?
Is there a way to put them on screen for the people at home? Or?
I will pick them up.
Good morning, everyone. I will say that my memory, I talked to my wife this morning. And I remember very distinctly, I believe it was the last meeting that we had, town meeting in the Perkinsville school. And it was really snowing. It was a night meeting, and I mean, it was snowing hard. And I remember driving over there, and that memory came back today. The driving today is much better than it was that day. I'm John Harrison, your representative for W2, which is Wethersfield, Cavendish, and Baltimore. And A couple of things that are coming up that I want to talk about that are coming out of the Education Committee. I was on the Education Committee last session. I'm on institutions and corrections. Hope I don't bum my day the same people in corrections, but anyway. Several bills are coming out of education and one of them in particular will affect Wethersfield School. Any of you that have followed the Supreme Court decision that if you send money to any private school, you also have to be willing to send money to religious schools. The problem with the Supreme Court decision is that it contradicts an enabling clause in the Vermont Constitution that says you don't have to do that. If you don't want to support a certain religion, you don't have to. Cleverly crafted language is coming out of education. And I talked to the chair this morning just to see where it was going, because I'm going to back up just for a second. Don't forget, this is the first year of a 2-year biennium. And we've only discussed, I think, 3 bills. So anyway, any bills that are in the pipeline are just starting to approach floor debate. With that said, what effect's that going to have on Wethersfield School? Because we send our 9 through 12 students all over the place. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's 1 student going to Mount Royal, which is a Catholic school. Does that sound right, Brian? Okay. The chair told me that there'll be a grandfather clause. Nobody's going to be asked to leave the school they're already in. However, you won't be, when the language is crafted, when your 8th graders are leaving this building and going to another school, probably, and once again, this is all not hypothetical, but certainly in the development stage, the religious schools, if they won't sign a letter of non-discrimination, that's really important. If a religious school sign a letter of non-discrimination that meets the litmus test of state of Vermont Constitution and policies, and it's pretty extensive. Not only does it apply to the students, it applies to the faculty also. And if you followed it on Digger and some of the other news events, 2 schools qualified their signature as saying, for all intents and purposes, they said, no, we can't sign this. So anyway, so what you may have heard or seen, and also that there's 2 bills right now and House bills that would have limited your choice to 3 schools. As far as I've been told, that's off the table. I was told by the chair that will be coming out as a committee bill. Committee bills get a lot of traction and kind of get the express lane onto the floor. You will still have school choice. They're going to put some boundaries on it. We're right on the Connecticut River. So the number I've heard is 25 miles. So anything New York, Massachusetts, I suppose even Canada, if the schools are within 25 miles, you'll still have school choice. So I think that's pretty good news for Wethersfield. This is one of the few schools in the state that's actually gaining in student population. And I think it's directly attributable to the fact that we have school choice. It made this debate about how much it costs, but nonetheless, I think people are moving into Wethersfield to raise their family because of the high school choice. The second, and this is nowhere near as impactful, this year and the last 3 years, school meals have been paid for with ESSER money from the federal government, and that's running out at the end of this year. The chair told me that there's a bill coming out that will that's going to put that program paid for out of the education fund. In other words, it will continue. It's still got to go to the House, still got to go to the Senate. The third thing, and I'm going to mention it, this is a pretty new building. And the PCB testing, which has been a lot of press about, is ongoing within the state. For some reason, Vermont is leading the way and the rest of the country is actually watching what we're doing. You'd like to hope that this building doesn't have an issue, but don't forget that wing there is not new, that this old finish is in there. Don't count your chickens yet. But nonetheless, we are very low on the list of when the testing gets done. To date, 45 schools have tested. 7 showed up with some level of PCB, and 2 were at an actionable level. Cabot School, in their multi-purpose room, had to close it because the PCB levels are that high. This is going to be really expensive. However, there's a bill coming out of education. They're going to put the brakes on the testing. That's the way I understand it, until we can figure out, does the scientific knowledge and information support what we're doing? I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Earlier, just before session, there was a meeting down at Springfield at the Tech Center. Christine was there, and several of all the principals, superintendents and principals were there, our superintendents were there, and it was like, what are you guys doing? What's going to happen if we have to close our school? And that conceivably could happen. It happened at Burlington, but there's a $6 million question is, did the scientific data back up what took place? Anyway, I believe that a bill is going to come out putting the brakes on the testing. They're going to stop until we can actually think the situation over a lot more thoroughly than it was. Let me explain where the PCB testing come out. There was a bill last session called this. It was a school assessment bill, and if you guys have had a cursory look here, right? A team has come in and talked to your facility manager.
Yes.
It was an effort, as anybody that's lived in town very long remembers, when this was built, we used 30% of it was paid for by the state. And that happened in so many districts that the state wasn't able to bond enough money to pay back. And I remember sitting in this room, and the representative down in Ernie Shan got a lot of grief because the state hadn't paid what they said they were going to pay. And the taxpayers of Wethersfield were required to pay the interest on the money that was promised to the state. And that went on for quite a while before it was finally paid. Anyway, it got paid. A new system of school construction. Christine, you probably more interested in this than this board. This is a pretty nice building. A new system of state aid is going to be put in place. Part of the bill that was passed last year was an assessment of all the buildings in Vermont, all the school buildings. There's 325. Look at every one of them and come up with a priority list. Which ones are in the worst shape and are in immediate need of some kind of attention? I remember we got testimony and video of it really is upsetting. Let's put it this way. Before the school was renovated, it would have looked pretty good compared to some of the ones we saw. A lot of them are in districts that can't get a bond vote passed, Northeast Kingdom. But right now, schools are still going ahead with renovations and bond votes, and that entire bond vote is passing through the education budget, the AOE budget that hands the money back to the towns. That is unfair because some towns are more affluent and more able to get a bond passed than others. So you got a town that doesn't want to see their taxes go up a penny. They're already taxed to the max. They won't pass a bond vote. Their schools continue to deteriorate. Those are going to be the targeted schools that are going to be on the list to get funding first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. So we'll move on to Article 2, to see if the school district will vote to authorize the school board to borrow money in anticipation of taxes to meet the requirements of the school district for the ensuing year, and to authorize the execution and delivery of notes or orders to the school districts. Again, this is voted by Australian ballot on Tuesday. Any discussion on Article 2? Article 3, to elect all school district officers as required by law. On Tuesday, discussion. Moving, folks. Article 4, shall the voters of the Wethersfield School District approve the school board to expend $7,487,050, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. It is estimated that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in education spending of $20,813.40 per equalized pupil. This projected spending per equalized pupil is 0.86% lower than the spending for the current year. And I believe we have a presentation on Article 4.
We do. We seem to be having a little technical.
Someone is sharing the screen. Can
You pick them off?
I think Christine just.
Hopefully they don't share anything inappropriate.
I think one of the one, Larry is asking us about.
Can you, yeah. And then you can join back in. All right. So go ahead and share.
Yeah, just stop sharing.
Nice tie, Brian.
Thank you. You like that?
Look at that.
Wethersfield swag.
And I'm just gonna, sorry, real quick, I just saw a few people join the meeting online. Just reiterate a point that was made earlier. It is the guidance we've been given that those online cannot participate in the meeting, they can only view the meeting. So with that, Ms. Martinez.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. All right, so first off, I'm Brian Martin, I'm the lead learner principal here at Wethersfield School. And I always like to start off with community. Because community to me is the backbone of our school. And so let's go ahead and start off with students and families. So we meet students and family needs in multiple ways. So we have special education, so individual education plans for students that qualify.
Brian, can I stop you for just a second?
Yeah, do I need a mic?
Yeah. You do.
I got one.
Okay.
I'll take this seat. You're really loud, so.
Okay.
All right, is that better?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we like to start off with special education, and that's for kids who qualify for an IEP or an individualized educational plan. And so those are for students that have a need to get some specialized education. And then we also give support for kids through, that aren't on IEPs through, if they need social emotional hope, we are Hope. We also have a school clinician here to help out kids. We are, and then we're also offering some after-school interventions, so it's kids that need that help. And then we also like to push kids forward. And so we have a number of students in 8th grade algebra, so they go to Windsor School, and they take an algebra class there, so they're getting high school credit when they go there. And then we actually have an 8th grade student that is taking geometry this year too, as well as an 8th grader at Windsor. So that makes it pretty awesome for kids to be able to get high school credit and to be able to expand their learning. We have an expanded food program that is set up to serve amazing food here at school. I have a couple students in here, I think they can attest to that, that when they get the food here, they do like it. They get lots of choices with food. And then right now, like Mr. Harrison said, that all kids in Vermont are getting breakfast and lunch for free. And then we have some grants that we were able to offer. So our Higgs Nichols grants, and that was one of the things that we added this year is we have a space behind this building right here, which was sort of a no man's land over there. And kids would play with sticks and everything else. So we were able to write a grant for our Higgs Nichols Foundation. And then that grant was granted and we got a wall of play structure for kids to be able, as an interactive wall, especially for some of our little kids that don't have a lot of things to do at recess. Right now they do because they climb up on snow. But right now, so that makes it an awesome opportunity. And then we had the community come out and put it together and set it up to save the school quite a bit of money, which was nice. And then PTO, our PTO here is amazing at Wethersfield. They are always looking for different ways to help us out and be able to give back to our school community. And then we have the Rise Amplify grant as well as other extras. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read that. And then this year we were able to bring back 4 Winds, which is a nature program. So we have volunteers that come into the classroom and are able to teach kids about science. It was really, I was in a 5th grade classroom the other day and they did a detective. They were detectives and they had to look at a skull and then by the characteristics of the skull, try to determine what the animal was. So it was pretty awesome to be able to do that. And then Pause is an after-school program that's not directly tied to the school, but it uses our facility and provides after-school care for kids. We've had an amazing amount of students that are attending on a regular basis. We're finally starting to put COVID behind us and move forward. And so our students are attending on a regular basis. And we also have a relatively low number of staff members that are out, especially compared to some of our surrounding areas. And then we do offer theme-based activities for our students and families throughout the school year. So some things that are new this year that we started off with. So we had a welcome back kickoff. So we did things a little bit differently at the start of the school year. Instead of having a back to school night within a couple of nights or a couple of weeks into the school year, we did a welcome back kickoff prior to school starting. We offered food and then it was the opportunity for students and families to go into their new classroom. So it eliminated a lot of those first day jitters, both for our students and our parents, as well as for the teachers. We did add a makerspace this year. If anybody would like to see it after this meeting, we can go up and see it. It's pretty amazing and it expands our library program where students are be able to explore and do different activities. And then it also added to our STEAM camp this year as well. We've expanded our sports program. Our sports program is up and running and it's great. We just finished a fantastic basketball season. Actually, our 7th and 8th grade boys are playing in a tournament tonight in Claremont at 8 o'clock. Everybody wants to break the weather and go. And then they added indoor soccer as well as cheerleading. If you've been to any of our sporting events and seen our cheerleaders out there, it's pretty fantastic to have them rooting for our players out there. And then winter activities are back. We finished our 3rd time of winter activities yesterday, so we have 1 more week. That's been a little bit of a struggle because with the weather, we didn't have enough snow, then we had too much snow, and we had snow days and all those fun things. But the kids have been able to go skiing and snowboarding. They've been able to go sledding. Students yesterday made, in a cooking class, made 691 meatballs. And then also even woodworking and building different things with our students. Oh. Thank you.
Well, I can use one of the lapel mics. I've got multiple lapel mics.
Can you hear me okay? All right. So winter activities have been pretty amazing this year. Also, our PTA, one of our big fundraisers we did this year was a paw drop. So people could purchase paws, and we had tons and tons of donations. There was things like TVs, there was car wash kits. What else? That's a little on the spot.
Cash prizes.
Cash prizes. There were, yeah, Wethersfield flags, all kinds of different things that you could get. Come on up. You're there. And so then what they did is everybody had a number on their paws that they purchased. So you got a paw assigned to you. And then the Mount Scotty Volunteer Fire Department went up the ladder and then dropped all the paws and then they landed on different squares. And so it was, we weren't quite sure. We had so many paws shoved into the bucket. We had to drop a second time because the paw splatter wasn't quite where we wanted it at. It all sort of clumped into one area. So we had a fail. We had our first attempt in learning, or first attempt in dropping paws in that case. So that was fun. But that was a great event, great community event for our families back in the fall. We also had a family dance right here in this building, right before it was a Valentine's themed dance on a Saturday. And because we've had dances for our middle school level students, and then we wanted to offer something through our K-5 families as well. And so we had a great turnout. Students and families were here, had pizza provided. It was a $5 cost per family to get in to help with the donation. And they were here ready to go. And it was pretty amazing having all the students and families here together. And then something else that we've done this year is called Lunch with a Loved One. And so the week prior to our winter break, because we wanted to make sure that we kept it open to as many families as possible, we had where you could pick a date to come in and have lunch with your child during their lunchtime. So if Monday worked out great for you, great, you could come in on Monday. If Wednesday worked out better for you, you could sign up. And then you got to come into the cafeteria and have lunch with your child during that day. And we had lots of parents, grandparents in there, and then it worked out wonderful for families that had multiple kids because they could do it at different days or different lunch times. We also, tied with that, we did a community Thanksgiving dinner. We did that all in one day. I know, Dave, you were here, the community Thanksgiving dinner, and it was great to be able to have families here for that, and to be able to have Thanksgiving and showcase some of the food stuff that our food service department is able to do. STEAM Night happened on February 1st, and that was a collaboration between us and the Springfield Tech Center. And so they came and showed off some of the stuff that they're doing down there to promote their program and share STEAM activities. And we have so many students now that want robotic fish, and they want us to get those as well. And then to be able to show off some of the items that we did at STEAM Camp, as well as some of the things that are in our makerspace. High school fair happened. Lots of our local high schools came to show what our students that are getting ready to go to high school, what they have to offer. And it's always nice because we encourage students to come at all ages, because it's never too early to start thinking about what their future is going to entail. And so the students have a really good idea of what they want to do when they go to high school. And then we're setting up those shadow appointments right now for students to be able to do that, shadow the different high schools to see where they want to go after they leave Wethersfield. We have bi-monthly assemblies for our students. We have a K-5 assembly and we have a K-8 assembly that is showing off our pride for our students. And so there's awards, and then there's activities that the students are doing. The K-5 assemblies usually do they do some type of activity geared towards Leader in Me, and those are being showcased every other Friday. And then we have our upcoming drama production. Little Mermaid Junior will be happening on March 24th and 25th, right here in this building. So we're excited. Our students have been working really hard, and staff members and parent volunteers, to be able to make sure that we're getting that put in, ready to go. So it's been a long time since we've been able to have a drama production. So we are excited to be able to do that. Student council is back up and running. Our student council helps out every day with the morning announcements. And they're also planning a dance coming up in April. So student council is doing more things around the school. We're able to do a spelling bee again, math team, and then even we sent out Christmas cards to the Escutney House. We've had a busy year with non-COVID restrictions. All right, so funding sources that we have. Lots of different funding sources. Of course, we have local taxes. We have the State of Vermont Education Fund, as well as federal government grants. We have grants like I talked about, Piggs Nichols. Walmart has given us money, Burn Foundation, and then the Rise Amplify. We were able to get some exercise bikes. They're like sitting bikes that have a table and you can exercise with them. So some of the students that need to be able to keep moving. And then PTO is also always providing money for our school, or funding for our school, and giving out many grants as well. And then we have generous donations from teachers, staff, and parents and community members. And then just all the people that come here to volunteer. So we appreciate all of that. All right, so our goals. So we have 3 strategic goals: student success and engagement, information and communication, and then culture and student wellness. And then we'll break those up. So Leader in Me has been a huge part of our school for the last 2 years. It is changing the overall feeling of our school and getting students to be able to have more voice and choice. And if you ask our students about the 7 habits, they'll be able to share that with you. As you walk into the school, you probably saw some of the WIGs, the wildly important goals that were placed out there where students are talking about their goals and how they want to do academically or socially. Each classroom has a classroom mission statement that talks about how they want to be able to be the best possible student. And then, like I said, we have monthly student-led presentations for K through 5, and then the Panther Pride Assemblies, which are the K through 8, where we recognize all students on those days. So information and communication. We've been trying to share information across every possible way we can from social media. We have our Wethersfield Weekly newsletter that goes out to all families. Plus, we also have classroom newsletters that are going out to families as well. We have our website, and then we are giving that information through community dinners as well. So culture and student wellness. A couple of the ways that we're meeting that is through MTSS, which is the multiple tiers of student success. So having students be able to have, if there's a need for students, being able to look at those different levels of where they need and get them the services that they need. Teachers are looking at the standards and unpacking those standards to be able to make sure that kids are getting what they need as far as education-wise, and then to make sure that they're getting any services they need for the social emotional well-being as well. And one of the ways that we're meeting some of those needs, again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about winter activities, is to give those activities. We live in Vermont. It's a great opportunity to be outside, to be doing different things, and to find that social wellness during winter, because sometimes winter becomes a little long. And now, especially we're having snow a little bit later this year as well, it's able to give families that opportunity, or students that opportunity, to know what to do and some of the different things to stay active, both physically and mentally during winter time. Any questions so far? Good, all right. All right, supervisory union. All right, so we have assessments of the supervisory union through a couple of different things. So special education, food services, transportation, administration and operations, early childhood program, as well as our maintenance and then curriculum. So those are all some of the areas where our assessments go towards that we pay to the SU. All right, fiscal year. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about student enrollment, high school costs, budget goals, proposed budget for FY24, and then the supervisory union assessments as well as tax rates. So let's talk a little bit about student enrollment. So our projected enrollment, which is always a little bit of a guessing game, because like John mentioned earlier, when he was talking that we are one of the few schools that is growing in numbers. So kindergarten is always a pretty decent guess as far as where we're at. So we're projecting we're going to have 25 students in kindergarten. And then we basically obviously just take the number of students that we have and work them over the next year and go through that. So our projected enrollment currently right now is 245, but that could change. This past Monday, we got 5 new kids. So it changes on a daily basis, or it could change on a daily basis. So we're doing that. FY24 projection is we're anticipating possibly about 4 or 5 less kids than last year. And then we are losing 1 student. We have 1 less student that is going from 8th grade to 9th grade than from who's currently a senior. So we're losing 1 high school student. So our projected enrollment right now is 346, but you can see the trend where we've been going and moving up in the right direction as far as getting more and more students at Wethersfield. Yes.
You showed an 8th grade that had a pretty significant number in it. And does this budget reflect those 8th graders
Yes.
going into high school?
Yeah, this reflects 1 less student going from 8th grade to 9th grade than from 12th grade.
Just one.
1 less
This is for next year. This is
for next year, yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Thank you.
This year we had more kids.
We have more kids in high school right now than we have next year in high school.
Okay.
We have 1 less 8th grader than we do senior.
So it's a pretty even.
It's pretty even, yeah. So it does stay pretty even across the board.
But 25, you'll see that jump up because that's 35.
Yeah, because we have 35 current 7th
You're
graders
gonna see
right
the
now.
jump.
Actually, I think it's 36 now because we added 1
That's
this
the
week.
one. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have more students next year, so we will have an increase in high school tuition next year.
And you got about 35 will be graduating 12th grade?
No, we have about 25 that will be graduating 12th grade next year.
Yeah, they're
He's talking about 20.
it's the year, the budget, the next budget that we vote on next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so this year's budget is about even, student-wise.
FY
for FY
25.
'24, but FY
Next time we're
'25.
in this room,
Yeah.
we'll be talking about 10 more
Yeah.
high school students.
Correct, yes, thank you. That was a simpler way to put it. All right, so high school costs. So high school costs, even though we are losing one student, they have gone up about $29,000. So that's a small percentage, but like everybody else, costs are going up. So we're looking at $2 million, $2,023,785 for next year for high school costs. And that's just a projected high school tuition. Those numbers could change because of where students go to different high schools, do cost different money. Our budget goals: to maintain a staffing plan and program of students which support the whole child, mind, body, and soul, intellectually, socially, and emotionally, and physically, and then to make sure we bring forth a responsible budget while meeting education quality standards. So pretty simple. All right, here's the proposed FY '24 budget. So wages did go up. There was a step, percentage raise for staff. Benefit costs did go up fairly significantly, almost 12%. Contracted services went up, maintenance went up, transportation went down. Let's highlight on some of those. Communication went down, high school tuition, to what we just talked about, it ended up going 1.38%. Travel costs went down, our local assessments did go up, books and supplies went up. Cost of everything right now is a little bit more. Energy costs did increase as well. A lot of that is wood chips. Wood chips have gone up significantly, so our heating costs have gone up significantly. Overall equipment is about the same, or is the same. Dues and fees went up a little bit. Our debt service, so our debt is going down every year, so we will continue to save money on that, and we pay that off in 7 years, PJ? I think it's about 7 years, right? We have about 7 more years on it,
Yeah.
on the debt on this
28.
building. And so then our difference, so our overall budget is up 7.51%.
5 years.
5 years?
I think it's 28.
5 years, okay. Sorry. So our budget did go up $522,677.
Could you elaborate a little bit why transportation went down?
Yes. So. Yeah. The SU, that's part of our, so that is our extra buses that we're sending for games and such for athletes.
He's asking why it went down.
Yeah, that's why, because our number went down for that one because more of it is taken through the SU.
Oh, the SU is paying for our,
They're paying for, well, they pay for all our transportation costs, and then because of that, we don't.
Was it the contract with the company or, I mean, fuel prices certainly haven't gone down.
Well, let's go ahead.
It's only down $400. The transportation in the Weathersfield local budget is only down $400. So it's a big percentage year over year, but it's a small amount of money. It's basically athletics, Weathersfield athletics,
Okay,
not
Yeah.
the buses that run.
okay, that, I was wondering. that.
Yeah, because that's the buses that, this is just our,
This is just a local.
All right,
and then
okay.
SU takes, that's part of our SU assessment that we pay to the SU transportation. And then here's what we're paying as part of our SU assessments, is we have the early childhood costs, we have the business food program, and then special education. So our total assessments are $1,840,723. All right, tax rates. All right, so even though our budget went up, our tax rate went down. So our current tax rate is 1.7941, and then our new tax rate would be 1.6606. So it's a decrease of 1.335, 4.86%. So you have the breakdown, so if your home value is at $100,000, you have a decrease in school taxes of $134. And so on, all of the 500,000 with a decrease of 668. Any questions on that? I think so. It's a taxpayer. I'm excited about that. Any questions about anything about the school presentation? Yes, Mr. Ford.
On page 32, is there a way to grade, I see you have a list of energy, which you just talked about, and I was just gonna set me up for a couple other questions I have. Is there a way to, it's gone up to $86,000. Is there a way to break, what is that portion of electricity? Can you tell me that?
Larry, can we get
I mean, I just heard you mention something about wood chips. but-
Yeah, wood chips,
Is
John,
there a way to say, just straight up,
of what everything is.
That's an ed question.
We're gonna get that answer for you right now, because I know that one off the top of my head.
I have more questions.
Do you have more questions?
So is somebody finding out?
Yeah, someone's finding out right now, for you, so let's figure that one out.
So I caught a little bit of John Harrison's comment, I think, I don't know, I never want to put words in your mouth, but I caught, yeah. I hope you do that to me too. I think I heard you say something about building enrollment costs, and did I catch that, want to say that we just don't want to get to the day where this building would close? Did I catch you say that?
No, I didn't touch on that at all, and I don't think I'd even speak on that right now.
Okay, so, but a couple of years ago, and time goes by, there was an act, and I don't know the act, where it was a consolidation to get a lot less supervisory unions, and there were buildings in the state that closed and merged and so forth, and some of those worked out, some of those did not. I was here when this building was merged into this facility, when Perkinsville closed. And this building was built for 300, as I recall, maximum capacity. I think it's safe to say that even at that time, that whole thing was contemplated, that the footprint on both sites was very contained. Didn't really know what to do. So I also think it's pretty safe to assume that this facility could not be enlarged. As far as the footprint goes, we had water issues, we had septic and whatnot. So when I was listening to your comment about enrollment and at the 250, and some of the things that were contemplated back in the day were to tuition out 7th and 8th graders. I see the day coming, and this is where I'm going with this whole question, about, the town uses somewhere between $30,000 and $34,000 worth of electricity every year in the town buildings. I've heard that even from the past couple of years, that the school actually uses north of 50,000. So I want to learn, given the fact that the enrollment is what it is, and this is a little bit longer term thinking, I would like to throw out where the school board would like to get together with the town to, the last thing that my interest is to lose the school for any reason. But having said that, with costs the way they are, I would like the school to join the town in partnership to try to create a model where perhaps we would develop a way, and just given that figure that I just gave you of $80,000 a year for electricity, and I don't have all the answers. Because one of the problems right now is the town can't borrow money for less than 4.25% interest. So, I just want to throw that out there about, or ask a question, or no answer today. But I just wanted to learn what, for instance, what the power bill was, or to develop a model that would make this school be able to stay. I've been here long enough to know, my kids have been here, my grandkids are here now, where it's kind of important. And I think the reasons that are given for closing buildings, which means to save a lot of money, are sometimes false, because I know it's easy right now to say we're gonna close this building and tuition it out because some other school districts can handle the population. What's not told and what can't be quantified is whether or not parents and grandparents want to travel to the events where their children and grandchildren are. That is really difficult and it costs money. So, I'd just like to throw that out there. I mean, I saw the thing in here about energy and 86,000. the higher the number that those get, the more lucrative it is for the town or the school or both to listen to ways to pass a bond and drive our own car, so to speak, lead the way. I don't know if somebody has an answer yet, whether that got divided out or not, or.
Oh, Jamie's got it.
So on page 31 has a little bit more of a breakdown. The 86,000 is made up of electricity, bottled gas, oil, and wood chips / pellets. So electricity looks like from the current budget that we're in is down a little. Bottled gas is up. Looks like it wasn't budgeted last year, or the current year. Oil is up. And then the wood chips, pellets, but it's those 4 lines that make up.
But I'm not too far off and I spoke to you about this briefly a couple of weeks ago, Brian. It says 54,000 for electricity. So I know the town spends 30 to 32,000, so the whole thing would be, okay, well, what would equal some type of payment for $85,000 a year? Which is a fair amount.
Right.
And then also, the rates, even if you, I don't know whether GMP has announced their rate increases yet, but certainly New Hampshire did, and the 2 biggest carriers went up 45%.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something for us to look at, and we can, and we're definitely willing to work together as a town, because I think we're better together, and figure out something that's going to do it. One of the ways that, let me turn this back on, sorry, I turned it off, such a drink of water. One of the ways that, I mean, one of the things too that's caused our revenue costs to go up here is because we're open, full board. We're having basketball games, we're having events, and so that all adds up too, but those are worthwhile costs, but definitely we can work together as a school and town to be able to come up with, if there's something feasible that will benefit all of us.
The only thing I would add would be that we do have a very, very, I don't know if everybody knows him, I mean, he just came in with his wife a little bit late, like I did, Brandon Gulnick, who is our town manager, and he is very skilled at finding out ways to just fund these kind of things, either through grants or where he came from, that was his job. And given the opportunity, whatever the funds are, either federally or statewide, I think it might be worth looking at.
Thank you for that.
We do plan on having a school board liaison to your board and your board liaison to our board. It was something we're going to discuss at our March meetings after we reorganize.
I know that Brandon had been talking to Brian before on different things, and we're trying to get together. I mean, we're a small town, like any other small town in Vermont. I know nobody touched on it, but the common level of appraisal, 65% of the towns, and this isn't specific to Wethersfield, 65%, I think it is, of the towns in Vermont right now need to be reappraised, because they're currently undergoing that. So Vermont is very attractive right now to move to. I mean, I've been following this really closely for a couple of years. There's only 4 or 5 homes that are on any site right now for sale. And the reason why I don't want to be where all the people are not.
Yeah, we're across the country from here, so I remember dealing with all those really things.
Other questions on this article? John?
I'd like to address early in your conversation, it's in rambling, but early you mentioned population of the school and kind of alluded to the possibility that the state would mandate that we close it to send kids somewhere else. And there's actually no talk about expanding any of the consolidation. I will say that last session, the rules for forming and getting out of SUs was brought up to date. And the language as it stands now makes it really difficult. If, let's say we wanted to pull out of the Windsor Southeast, it's not easy. It can be done, but it's really, really not easy, and it was intentionally made that way. Westminster successfully did it before the rules were changed. there were two towns, Brickton and Lincoln, that wanted out of their SU for some reason. One of them successfully got out and then couldn't get in another one, and then they couldn't figure out how they were gonna do all the services that the SU provides. And that's a big deal. Somehow Ripton, well, little dinky town, little dinky school, has their own SU. Don't ask me how they're doing it. They don't, it can't be working very well.
I thought they went back.
One of them is out.
Other questions? Ashley?
Yeah, mine is just a comment. I feel like town meeting is such an important time for people to ask clarifying questions about the budget. And I understand the state guidance that didn't allow for public participation, but I'm hoping that you guys and that the town can give feedback to the state that in situations like today where we would not have held school for students and having the expectation that people should show up here in a weather event like this. There are so many people in the waiting room who their questions could change their votes. That it's incredibly important that we make it easier for people to participate in civic engagement. And I'm not putting any blame on here, but I'm hoping that this is an opportunity to provide feedback because we need people asking questions.
I'd be happy to take that back and
Thank
appreciate your comment, and I gotta be honest with you, I don't know how the decision was made. I know what it is, it's reverting back to pre-COVID, when that.
Well, I'm just saying that this is an opportunity. We've made so much flexibility in the past couple of years dealing with this that I would think that we wouldn't want to have a situation like this in the future, and we have the power to make it possible for people to participate, then we should use it. We want, especially now, and as a parent, encouraging the idea of civic engagement, we've got to make it as accessible as possible for people. So yeah, that's just feedback.
Totally agreed, Ashley. Yeah, it's been something that actually John and I were both talking about, and we're upset about the fact that there's no public participation over the, that was what the lawyers said we had to do, so.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I assume the state will be open to feedback like that because I assume the state would also like to encourage public participation. So it's a situation that everyone could learn from.
Is there any other discussion on Article 4? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, thanks for the presentation. Thank you. We will move on to Article 5. To transact any other business which may properly come before the meeting.
I got one last thing.
One more thing.
At the town clerk's table, there's a box with some blue papers in it with a brief recap of the highlights that are happening in the legislative session. On the reverse side is a poll. Please pick one up and leave it on the town clerk's table. And it'll also be available this afternoon, and hopefully I'll get up a online survey so I can get more input on some important issues we're going to be voting on.
Thank you, John.
John,
Flo-Ann?
you can also have it as an exit at town meeting day.
Okay.
I'm gonna allow you.
Anything else for the good of the order? BJ?
John, thanks for being our moderator.
Anytime. Glad to actually be here in person for the first time. With that, Mr. Fuller.
Are we writing your name in, John, for moderator? Yes, okay, thank you.
On that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the school meeting.
So moved.
Motion by John, second by BJ.
You can second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, that's it. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Imagine this.